A very good morning to you and welcome to Elville & Associates and another installment of the Elville webinar series. Thanks for spending some time with us today. Today's topic is one we've offered for many, many years, and it's a very popular one, Maryland Able, a financial tool to promote health, independence, and financial security, presented by Maryland Able's Outreach and Communications Manager, Kelly Nelson. My name is Jeff Stauffer, Community Relations Director with Elville & Associates, and I'll be your moderator for today. And we have many new attendees to our webinar series today. So a few general housekeeping items. We welcome your general questions. So when you have one, please note it in the questions panel on your screen, and we will pause periodically throughout the presentation to address them. Your questions add a lot of value. They help others learn, so don't be shy in posing your question at any time. You also received the presentation slides by email from me yesterday to download and print out if you wish to take notes on them. If you didn't receive them for some reason, they're also available in the section marked handouts on your screen to download at this time. And also for our professionals on today's webinar, a warm welcome to you as well. For our CFPs, CPAs, and most others, you may receive 1.5 continuing education hours for attending. And per my attendance records requirements, if I don't have your ID number already and you'd like to receive continuing education hours, please send that to me today so I can submit your hours and send out certificates if applicable. And everyone will also receive a post-webinar feedback email right after today's presentation. So please take just a couple minutes to fill out this very brief survey and offer us your feedback about today's presentation. And we always read and value everything that you have to share with us. And here at Elville & Associates, we always work every day with clients with the ideals of collaboration, compassion, and client education in mind with every client every day. And we're always available for free consultations to discuss your planning needs and want to be a resource to you in any way to help create a path forward for your planning. And please contact me anytime with any questions about what we do here at Elville & Associates. And it's always my privilege and pleasure of introducing today's presenter and longtime friend of Elville & Associates and someone I consider a friend of mine too, Miss Kelly Nelson. So Kelly is the Outreach and Communications Manager with Maryland Able. Kelly has worked in the field of disabilities for more than 30 years. She has served in many roles supporting people with disabilities and their families through advocacy, education, and connecting them to vital resources within their community. As a parent of a child with disabilities, Kelly is passionate about helping her daughter to become a confident self-advocate as she pursues her goals of working and living independently in the community. As the Outreach and Communications Manager for Maryland Able, she is delighted to have the opportunity to connect with many people with disabilities, their families, and the staff that support them as she travels throughout Maryland, educating people about the benefits of having an ABLE account. Through her outreach endeavors, Kelly is excited to see how her work with Maryland Able is helping to promote personal choice, independence, and economic stability for people with disabilities. So, Kelly, thank you so much for being here. We do have a brief poll I'd like to share just to have Kelly get to know who we have with us today, and we'll jump right into the presentation. We have a lot to talk about. So that poll is, how familiar are you with Maryland Able accounts? And our choices are, I just launched the poll. I have an Able account and I'm here to learn more. Second, I have heard of Able accounts and I'm here to learn more. Third, I want to set up an Able account and have questions. Or fourth, I'm an advisor here to learn to better serve my clients. So make the choice that best suits your situation. We appreciate you being here. Kelly and I have presented together for 8 years, I guess, Kelly.
Sounds about right.
Probably about 25 presentations. Always a pleasure. We're going to be at the Brain Injury Association of Maryland's annual conference in a couple weeks. Always look forward to that. One of our favorite places to be.
Absolutely. What a wonderful conference it is. It's great to connect with so many self-advocates and families, and yeah, looking forward to it.
We are. All right. So with that said, we have most people having cast their choices. 12% say I have an Able account and I'm here to learn more. 60% say I have heard of Able accounts and I'm here to learn more. 8% say I want to set up an Able account and have questions. 20% say I'm an advisor here to learn to better serve my clients. So Whatever has brought you here today, welcome. We're glad you're here. And I'm going to turn it over to who you really want to hear talk, Kelly Nelson.
Thank you so much, Jeff.
Yep.
Good morning, everyone. I am delighted to be here with you today to have this opportunity to share information about ABLE accounts. I want to thank our wonderful hosts at Elville and Associates just to provide this opportunity for me to be able to connect with you. They do so many wonderful learning opportunities in the community, and we are excited to be part of that. My plan for today is to share with you a broad overview of ABLE accounts, starting with the legislation that makes it possible. Then we'll talk about the eligibility criteria and who can open and manage that account. We're going to talk about the main benefits of having an ABLE account, and then sort of focus more on things that are unique to Maryland ABLE, some of the features and tax advantages that we have here. So that's my plan. We are going to be stopping at some certain transition points to give you all a chance to check in with questions. Sometimes you might put a question in the box that we're going to get to a little bit later. We'll ask you to just be patient with us and we'll cover it in a bit. But that's our plan for today. And I'm going to stick around until I get everybody's questions answered. So as Jeff said, I am the Outreach and Communications Manager for the Maryland ABLE program, but I always like to share with folks that in addition to working with Maryland ABLE, I've also had the opportunity to gain some practical real-life experience with an ABLE account, as I am a parent of a 20-year-old young lady with multiple disabilities, and she has had an ABLE account for about 5 years now, and I've been helping her to manage that account as her authorized legal representative. So it's just been this wonderful opportunity for me to be able to see firsthand how having this ABLE account has really helped our daughter to grow in her independence, her self-confidence, and to build some really important financial literacy skills, which can be challenging for a young lady like my daughter who has intellectual disabilities. So beyond that, it's given us an opportunity to begin to plan and prepare for her future. And, you know, as parents, if we have families on the call, you know that one of the things in the back of our mind is always, well, how do we plan for the future for when we're not here? Hopefully we're all going to be here for decades to come, but when we're not, we need to have things in place for that. And ABLE is certainly one of those tools along with the Special Needs Trust. So that's my plan for today. We're going to go ahead and get started. So Jeff, I don't know if I have screen share capability just yet, but if I do.
You should have screen sharing capabilities. Let's.
All righty, here we go.
There.
Here we go. How are we looking?
I still see that. Do you still see the poll popped up there?
No, I don't see the poll at all.
Okay.
I just have my slide, the title slide up right now. Thanks, guys, for bearing with us here. We had this all pre-checked before we turned the camera on, but I don't know where it went to.
Okay, it says people see the poll. Let me see what I can do about that.
All righty. So while Jeff is just kind of checking on the screen share, I did want to just share with you some exciting information that's not necessarily going to be covered in the presentation, but certainly something that we're happy about. We did have some legislation proposed in the general session that would make it possible for ABLE information to be shared during annual meetings at school. So IEP meetings, IFSP meetings, and 504 meetings. We're going to make it possible to be able to share a one-page ABLE information at all of these meetings. So I think that's going to really help to get a lot more families connected with information about ABLE accounts early on. So that's just a little bonus thing that I wanted to share with you guys. That's been heard already in the House. It's going to be heard in the Senate, and things are looking like it's probably going to go through. So I don't want to jinx it, but certainly some good information to share. Okay, here we go. Oh, now I see it. It says share my screen. There we go.
There we go. Sorry about that.
No worries. No worries. We've got it. We've got it here.
There goes the perfect presentation, Kelly.
All right, here we go. All right. So first, let's take a look at ABLE accounts in general and what they are. Basically, an ABLE account is a way for people with disabilities and their families to finally be able to save money in their own name without jeopardizing those critical federal and means tested benefits, things like SSI, Medicaid, and any types of waivers that they may have. So the thing for folks with disabilities that are receiving SSI benefits, some wonderful things happen when they become eligible. They get that monthly cash benefit that helps them with their living expenses. It also gives them automatic eligibility for Medicaid, right? So they've got that health insurance piece, which is so very important. And then with Medicaid comes the opportunity to qualify for other types of really helpful waivers like food, energy, housing assistance, many different types of waivers that would be available, which is all fantastic. However, you got to kind of think of that SSI benefit as sort of being that kingpin that sort of gets the process rolling and holds things together. The challenge for people receiving SSI benefits for many decades has been this $2,000 resource limit that Social Security Administration has that says, you know, a person with a disability cannot have any more than $2,000 in assets in their name. So it's made it pretty much impossible for people to be able to save and plan for their future. Well, thanks to the ABLE legislation that was brought about by a lot of advocacy efforts over many years, people with disabilities, their family members, advocacy groups, service provider organizations, all working together and under the leadership of one particular parent named Stephen Beck Jr. The ABLE legislation was passed back in 2014 by President Obama, and it gave states across the country the opportunity to open ABLE programs and make ABLE accounts available to their community, which was wonderful because when this happened, it gave that ability to people with disabilities to be able to save beyond that $2,000 and actually be able to now have up to $100,000 in their ABLE account without losing benefits. So it really was a game changer for a lot of folks who were formerly just spending down money when they got close to that $2,000 limit just to be able to maintain benefits. So it stopped the spend down and really helped to break that cycle of poverty for people with disabilities. Couple of things I want to let you know about the ABLE legislation. This is federal legislation, right? So this applies to ABLE programs across the country. There's currently 47 ABLE programs, and Maryland is one of them. So in 2014, when the legislation passed, the ABLE Act passed, you know, it took states a little while to be able to get these programs up and running because while most states wanted to be able to offer this, the ABLE Act doesn't provide a mandate for states to open it, and it didn't provide any funding to get these programs started. So it took a little while to get things up and running. Here in Maryland, Governor Hogan signed our ABLE Act into law in 2016, and we launched our program in 2017. So we just celebrated our 6th anniversary back in November. We're happy to say we've been growing over the years. We have 6,202 ABLE account holders here in Maryland, and together, collectively, they are saving over $86 million in assets, which is just wonderful because this is for a group of people who were at one time told they could never have more than $2,000 in resources in their name, and now they're able to save. So it's really wonderful news. Our ABLE program is facilitated by the state of Maryland. We are actually operated under the Maryland State Treasurer's Office, and our regulations for operating this program are held within the Internal Revenue Code. I don't tell you that to bore you, but just because it's one of those myths about ABLE guidelines and regulations, people tend to think that they're part of Social Security law or they're part of Medicaid law because there's so many, you know, connections. But actually, our regulations are held within the Internal Revenue Code, Section 529A. Some of you heard of 529 because that's college savings, right? So they're 529, we're 529A for ABLE. All righty, so let's take a look at some of the main benefits of having an ABLE account, why people are very interested in them. The first one is increasing that savings limit before the SSI cash benefits are impacted. That's what I was mentioning earlier about that $2,000 limit imposed by Social Security Administration that would just limit people to having $2,000. What was happening if people's assets were to go over the $2,000 limit, they would be given a little bit of time to spend that money down before their monthly cash benefit was impacted. What was happening right away is Medicaid benefits were no longer eligible to them. And that was a real problem. So people overspent, became over-resourced, and they were losing those critical benefits. Now, money within an ABLE account up to $100,000 is not a countable resource by Social Security Administration. So that's a lot more wiggle room, right? From $2,000, making sure we don't go over that, now being able to have up to $100,000. And again, with an ABLE account, you're not just protecting that SSI cash benefit, but you are also going to be protecting the Medicaid and waiver services like food, energy, housing assistance, and many other types, because they are protected. When money is within an ABLE account, you can have up to $100,000 and maintain those benefits. Another popular reason why people are interested in ABLE accounts is they are tax-free savings and earnings. You're not going to be paying federal or state taxes on the earnings from your ABLE account, not while the money is in the account and not when you take it out, provided that you're using those funds for the beneficiary's health, independence, or quality of life, or what they like to call qualified disability expenses. So it's always good, tax-free savings and investing. The other reason that's very popular to save in an ABLE account is that here in Maryland, anyone that makes contributions to a Maryland ABLE account is able to access an income deduction on their Maryland state taxes for those contributions, up to $2,500 per person and per ABLE account. So if someone is married and filing joint returns, they're able to claim a $5,000 income deduction. Sometimes we see families that have more than one family member with an ABLE account, so they're able to max out that contribution for each and every ABLE account that they contribute to. So speaking of taxes, which are right around the corner, it's always good to know that there's a way to be able to save some money on our taxes. The other reason is that, ABLE accounts are easy to enroll in and they're easy to manage. Everything is done online. So we've worked really hard to make that process an easy process for people with disabilities and their family members. And we're excited about that. They have the opportunity to access their funds whenever they need it. They manage their own accounts online, so people can just log in anytime, day or night, make contributions or take withdrawals. So we like that flexibility of people being able to manage things on their own. And also there's easy access to funds through a linked bank account. And we're going to talk more about that in just a little bit. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and just cover the eligibility for ABLE accounts, and then we're going to pause and take a little break and see if we have any questions so far. So to be eligible for an ABLE account, and again, this is going to apply to ABLE programs nationwide, a person has to meet two criteria. The first is that they had to have the onset of a disability prior to the age of 26. And if you're looking at the slides right now, you're saying, why is that little asterisk there with 26? Well, that's because some good news to share is that through the passage of the ABLE Age Adjustment Act, we are going to be able to raise the age of onset for ABLE account eligibility to age 46. So right after ABLE legislation passed, we knew that this was a challenge, that people would have to have a diagnosed disability before age 26, because this excluded so many people, veterans, people with diagnoses with later onset in life. We talk about people with, have been in accidents, have a brain injury, or later onset diagnoses tend to be MS or Lou Gehrig's disease, all kinds of things. So this is really going to help us out a lot with increasing eligibility for people. Sadly, we have to wait until January the 1st of 2026 before this eligibility criteria comes into effect. So for right now, a person had to have the onset of their disability prior to age 26. The second criteria is that the person has to have a disability that it would meet the Social Security Administration's definition of a disability. So something that's going to be present with a person throughout their life and is going to impact them in their ability to either live independently, work independently, consistently without support. So one of the things when you're enrolling in an ABLE account, one of the very first things that they're going to ask is this person currently receiving SSI or SSDI? If the answer to that question is yes, we already know that you're eligible for an ABLE account because Social Security has examined your documentation and found you eligible. There probably is a good portion of folks attending this webinar today that says, well, gosh, Kelly, what about if my son or daughter doesn't have SSI or SSDI right now? We're not eligible for it at this point. Do they have to have Social Security benefits to have an ABLE account? No, they do not. All they need is that diagnosis before age 26. So in a situation like that, we find that some folks who are eligible for an ABLE account, if they were to apply for SSI or SSDI before they become an adult, they would not qualify because their Social Security would be looking at the entire family's income, mom and dad's income, the household income, which oftentimes would mean that they wouldn't qualify for benefits. But when that child turns 18 and people apply for benefits, we find that this is when people usually receive them because they're examining just that individual's income, which is obviously going to be much less than the household income, and there may not be any income at all. So if this is the case, and this applies to you, if you want to go onto our website at marylandable.org, the very bottom of our website has a section called resources where you can find the forms tab. There is a form on that portion of the website called the disability certification form. And you could just print this form off, and the next time you visit your physician or your child's physician, just take that form with you, have the physician check off the disability code and sign it, and you want to maintain it for your records. You do not have to have it present with you when you enroll in your ABLE account. We'll talk more about enrollment in just a little bit. One last thing I want to mention before we take questions is the ABLE account is always owned by the person with the disability. They're always the owner of the account and the beneficiary at the same time. So that number 26 that I put up there, having to have that disability 26, this is another one of these things where we run into myths about ABLE, and people think, well, I had to have opened my ABLE account before I turned 26, or, you know, I can't open it until I turn 26. No, that's not the case at all. That's just the age criteria for which the disability had to be the onset of. We have ABLE account holders who are just a couple of months old. And we have people that are in their 90s. So it really doesn't matter how old you are when you open the ABLE account. But no matter how old they are, it is always the person with the disability. Even the 3-month-old is the owner of the ABLE account. Now, obviously, we have a situation here with children where they're not able to manage their own ABLE account. So we have someone in the ABLE world is called the authorized legal representative. But we're going to call that person from here on out the ALR because it's such a mouthful. So when you have a minor that is opening an ABLE account, a parent or an adult needs to serve as the ALR to help them open and manage that ABLE account. When that child turns 18, if they're able to manage their ABLE account on their own, you can drop back and they can take over management of that ABLE account once they're an adult. So we have a couple of situations here where, you know, we look at our ABLE account owners here in Maryland, we have a significant portion of ABLE account owners that manage their own account because they can, and that's fantastic. We also have a very large number of folks who need assistance, either because they're a child or because, hey, they've turned 18, but they've decided, you know, this is something new for me. It's a financial account. I would like someone to continue to help me manage this ABLE account. So that is fine. They can appoint a parent or whoever they want to help them do so. Then we have another group of account holders. These are account holders who are not able to manage the ABLE account on their own. So in that case, we have the ability for someone to serve in that capacity. And this is a change. If you've been to an ABLE account presentation in previous years, we used to need to have either a power of attorney signed or a copy of guardianship of property in order for someone to help manage this account once someone was 18. We've had some revisions to our regulations that now make it possible for the following people to serve as an ALR. Obviously, the best case scenario is if the account holder appoints someone as power of attorney, because that's just the cleanest, most official way to do it, but they don't have to have a POA to serve. The next one would be is if you already have guardianship of an adult family member and you provide documentation of that guardianship, that is great as well. But look at folks who are in the process of applying for guardianship. It is a lengthy process. It could take a little time. So we were in situations where families were saying, hey, I need to get this ABLE account open. I've got to get this money. My daughter's over-resourced. We've got to move this into the ABLE account. Don't have guardianship yet. She's not able to provide her consent on a POA. What can we do? So the new legislation passed that made it possible here in Maryland for someone to serve in that capacity if they were, and in this order, a spouse, a parent, a sibling, or a grandparent of the eligible individual, or someone serving as the representative payee. So that is the order in which people are able to provide account assistance management for someone who's unable to serve, unable to give consent or manage their ABLE account. So let's take a pause here, because that was a lot of information, especially that last part about account management.
Well, thanks, Kelly. Do have a few questions here. Let's start with, can I use my daughter's IEP to document her disability diagnosis?
You could keep that as a supporting document, but really the only thing that is required is a physician's diagnosis. So just taking that IEP to the physician, having that person check off the disability code that best suits their disability and signing it. And again, this is not something that you're going to need to submit in order to open the ABLE account. As her parent, you're going to self-attest that she does have a qualifying disability that was experienced before the age of 26. And the only time you would be asked to provide a copy of that documentation would be in the event of an audit by the IRS. Okay.
Okay. And any general thoughts on SSDI versus SSI on ABLE accounts?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And it's an important one to know that when people with disabilities qualify for Social Security benefits, they could qualify for SSI, Social Security income, and that's the one that has that $2,000 asset limit, while other people are able to qualify for SSDI, that's Social Security Disability Insurance. And this does not have that $2,000 asset limit. Sometimes Medicaid waivers and Medicaid could have an asset limit, but not the SSDI. So people say, what's the difference? They sound, they sound very similar. They sure do. So SSI is something that a person with a qualifying disability would receive who has not paid into the system through their own personal employment, right? So for example, a child that's turning 18, they have a disability, they've never had a job, they're going to qualify for the SSI. Someone who has worked and had a work history and been paying into that Social Security fund over the years, right? If they should experience a disability, they would qualify for the SSDI. Sometimes we see families where we have a family, a child who is receiving SSI and SSDI, or they did get SSI, but now they're receiving SSDI because a parent either retired and made that benefit available to them, or because a parent passed away and they're receiving their benefit that way. So I hope that helps. I don't work for Social Security, but I always like to clarify the difference between which one has the asset limit and which one doesn't. So SSI has that asset limit.
Okay. Do parents need 2 ABLE accounts for a beneficiary to obtain the $5,000 Maryland deduction, or can contributions be made by both parents to one ABLE account and obtain the max $5,000 annual Maryland deduction?
So yes, you can. An ABLE account, a person can only have one ABLE account. So that is true for ABLE programs nationwide. So if a person is not filing joint, they could, and they're filing their own income tax returns, they could claim their contributions up to $2,500 each person, if that makes sense. And this is true of non-parents, other family, friends, anybody at all who makes a contribution to a Maryland ABLE account and lives and pays taxes in Maryland can claim those contributions to the ABLE account on their Maryland state taxes.
Okay. If you enroll your ABLE account now, will there be any changes when the eligibility requirements change in 2026, or once you enroll now, you should be set?
Yes, once you enroll in the ABLE account, there will be no impact once the ABLE age adjustment passes. So you'll be fine.
And an attendee alludes to some problems that may have plagued the Maryland 529 College Savings Plan. Any steps to assure that the ABLE program doesn't have any of the same issues?
Sure. Well, while Maryland ABLE is one of 3 programs that was under the former state agency of the Maryland 529 agency, we are one of 3 programs. Each one of the programs, the College Investment Plan and the College Prepaid Plan and Maryland ABLE, all 3 have different program managers. So the challenges that I believe this person is referring to was for the Maryland Prepaid Plan, and so we all have different program managers. There was no issues with program managers for Maryland ABLE. Also important to note is that with Maryland ABLE, account holders and ALRs have always, from the very beginning of our program, always been able to be in charge of their own accounts. There was never a process where you have to ask someone for withdrawals from your account or to process reimbursements. People with ABLE accounts manage their own accounts. They put their own money in electronically whenever they want to do it, and they withdraw it whenever they need it. So that is something that's also very different between ABLE accounts and college savings plans.
Okay, let's do one more for now, then I think you'll cover a few of the other questions here. Can a diagnosis be made by a clinical psychologist?
Yes.
Okay. All right, let's move on for right now. Thanks very much, Kelly.
Sure, absolutely. All right, we did cover a lot, so I'm glad we got a chance to check in on that. A couple of things we want to keep in mind about contributions to an ABLE account. The first one is that when someone opens an ABLE account, it does require an initial deposit to fund the account and get it up and running. And that amount has to be a minimum of $25. It can be more, but that's just the minimum. This is not a fee. This is the actual person's money that's going into their ABLE account. From that point on, the account holder or the ALR, they determine how much money they want to put in and when they want to do it. Because again, this is all managed online from an online dashboard, and they can decide what, when they want to make their next contribution. They could set them up to be monthly automatic contributions. They could just log in quarterly or whenever they want to and identify that amount, as long as it is a minimum of a $5 contribution at any time. An important number we want to look at here is our standard annual contribution limit. So for 2024, this amount was increased to $18,000. And this happens sometimes because I mentioned that our regulations are within the Internal Revenue Code, so there's a lot of tie-ins here. And we see this especially with our annual contribution limit. Every time the IRS increases the gift tax exclusion, this is going to change or increase the Maryland ABLE standard annual contribution limit. So when I joined the program, five years ago, almost 6 years ago, the amount was $14,000 a year. And over the years, it has increased. It doesn't increase every year, but you will see this occasionally. And this means that every calendar year, a person may contribute up to $18,000 into the ABLE account. The account can continue, the balance can continue to grow beyond $18,000, but the amount that a person is permitted to contribute every calendar year is $18,000. So this is an area that I like to bring up the importance of multiple planning tools. When we look at a contribution limit of $18,000 a year, this is, going to be a challenge for families who are looking at ABLE account as a primary method for being able to plan and prepare for the future of their family member. So it's a great way to get started. It's a great way to be able to begin saving and planning. But if you are interested in having a way to be able to leave an inheritance, your life insurance policy, your assets, your estate, chances are that is going to exceed an $18,000 contribution limit, right? This is where we see a need for that multiple planning tool being the special needs trust. With a special needs trust, their asset, it's also an asset protection account, meaning that Social Security cannot count against them the amount of money that is saved in a special needs trust. So that is the only other way a person with a disability can have assets without jeopardizing those means tested benefits. So what I recommend is, where we work collaboratively as a planning tool. If you have an ABLE account now and you're looking into that long range planning of being able to leave your estate, you really need to check in with information about creating that trust, because a trust you can deposit $1 or $1 billion. There is no limit on how much money you can put and fund into a trust. Whereas ABLE, we wouldn't be able to put more than that $18,000 a calendar year. So I know you're in good hands here with the folks at Elville. If you have additional information about trusts and how they can help as planning for the future, reach out to Jeff and he will get you hooked up with someone to talk to. Now that I've told you about our annual contribution limit, I'm going to give you the exception to the rule, because there always seems to be an exception, right? So for folks who have an ABLE account, who are also working and not contributing to a retirement account, where their employer is not contributing to a retirement account, they are eligible to put an additional amount of money into their ABLE account above and beyond that $18,000. So if a person qualifies for able to work, that means they are able to contribute up to an additional $14,580. This does increase a little bit each and every year, but for 2024, that's the amount. So what would happen is, I want you to kind of think about these contribution limits as two different buckets, if you will. The $18,000 annual contribution can be filled by anyone. It could be contributions from the account owner, him or herself, but it can also be from contributions from family and friends. It can come from any source, and that would fill that $18,000 bucket. For those who are eligible for able to work contributions, we always recommend that when they're making contributions to their ABLE account, that they code that contribution as an able to work contribution, because that's going to start filling that able to work contribution bucket and leaving more room in that $18,000 standard bucket that anybody could contribute to. So that's how that would work. For example, let's take a look at this. If we have someone that's working part-time and they're making $5,000, and if they wanted to, they could contribute up to $5,000 in the ABLE account and code that as able to work contributions. Let's say we fast forward years down the road, they get a raise, they're working full-time, now they're making $20,000 a year. They would still be limited for the able to work contribution limit of that year. This year is $14,580. Okay, so if you have any specific questions about able to work, I'm happy to answer them, as we move to the end of the presentation, or you can reach out to me about that as well. But that's how able to work gives people an extra opportunity to be able to save and invest. Let's take a look at the $100,000 ABLE account balance. This is an important number to remember for those who are receiving SSI benefits. It really doesn't have such an impact for those receiving SSDI, but let's take a look at for those receiving SSI. So we already know that Social Security says, hey folks, you can have up to $2,000 in assets in a regular checking or savings or in a combination of those. Here with an ABLE account, they permit an ABLE account holder to have up to $100,000 in their ABLE account. But if it should exceed that amount, what would happen is Social Security would press a pause button on that monthly cash benefit. However, Medicaid and any waivers that they are receiving would remain in place. And at any point that you were to spend some money in the ABLE account and the balance should fall below $100,000, Social Security would be able to automatically reactivate your benefits because you were never disenrolled. This is the big difference between trying to save and invest in a regular bank account or a mutual fund or retirement plan or anything, and money in an ABLE account when it pertains to people with disabilities on public benefits. Outside of ABLE, you may only have $2,000 outside of ABLE and a special needs trust. Within ABLE, you can have up to $100,000. After $100,000, Social Security is paused. Medicaid and all waivers remain in place. Balance falls, you can automatically be reactivated, which is very different from exceeding a resource limit over a period of time could have you disenrolled from Social Security benefits and you'd have to reapply all over again. And one last thing before I take a little break for questions again is there is also a $500,000 account balance number that I want you to keep in mind. Let's just say you're a person that's receiving SSDI and you don't have to worry about that $100,000. It's because you don't have an asset limit on your SSDI. We can continue to accept contributions and your account, an ABLE account, can continue to grow up to $500,000. But at that point, we would no longer be able to take new contributions to the ABLE account until that balance were to be, some of the balance would be withdrawn and spent on qualified disability expenses. This is where you see that tie-in in the law between 529 and 529A. That $500,000 is associated with the college savings plans. And that's the account that's set for that. That is actually determined by the cost of a college education for a child born today. That's the estimated cost. So that's where they cap that 529 contribution limit account balance, and that would also impact then the ABLE account balance, meaning we could no longer accept after $500,000 in that account balance. So we've talked a lot about contributions. Let's take a pause here and see if there's any questions about the $100,000 balance and the standard contribution limit.
Thanks, Kelly. So we have a few questions here. One question is examples of QDEs, qualified disability expenses. I believe you're going to speak about that.
Yep, sure am.
In another slide. So I just want to let our attendee know that. My child has an existing 529. Can I roll over $18,000 per year into the ABLE account from the 529 until the end 12/31/2025, are there any restrictions of the funds that are rolled over?
No, we're actually going to talk about that in the next slide, but this person is asking if they can roll over funds. And I'm going to go ahead and pop that slide up while I'm talking about it. So if somebody has a 529 college savings that they've opened for a family member, and as they're growing older, they're like, I'm not really sure that my family member is going to be, pursuing college as their pathway, you can roll over 529 college savings funds into an ABLE account. It is still subject to that $18,000 contribution limit. So as this attendee was pointing out, let's just pretend that there's $20,000 in this college savings. Person could roll over $18,000 this year and then roll over the remaining $2,000 next year. And what this does, and it's a wonderful thing, because now it opens up the type of things you can use these funds for. Under college savings investment plans, those funds are earmarked for education. So tuition, room and board, all those kind of things for colleges and education. When you roll the money into ABLE account, you expand what you can use those funds for. They can still use it for college and education expenses. If they do decide to go to college, it will cover room and board and books and tuition and everything. But now they can also access those funds for any type of qualified disability expense, which is really anything at all that supports the beneficiary in his or her health, independence, or quality of life. So thank you for that question, because we were going to get to that slide anyway. We've already taken care of that one. So,
okay.
Oh, I do want to mention one other thing, Jeff, and this attendee was very wise to bring up the fact that currently this ABLE Financial Planning Act is scheduled to sunset on December 31st, 2025. So by all means, if you're one of these families that has a 529 and you want to roll it over, don't wait. Go ahead and do that, because if it truly does sunset in 2025, there wouldn't be an opportunity to do that any longer. I do want to let you know that ABLE programs nationwide, Maryland ABLE included, we have been advocating for years for them to take this sunset off, to remove that date and just leave it in place. So Senator Casey from Pennsylvania has proposed a bill to remove the sunset. So we'll keep you posted on that. I'm going to be in DC next week with ABLE program administrators from across the country, and we are going to be visiting our representatives and making sure that we show support for that. But just in case it doesn't happen, don't wait.
Okay. Another couple questions here. After a parent who used to manage the ABLE account passes away, can the siblings replace to manage the account?
Yes, they can. There's not a way to identify before a current ALR passes. You can't have like a successor ALR identified ahead of time. But what would happen is a family member, whoever would be taking over that role, would just contact Maryland ABLE customer support and say, sadly, the ALR passed. I am taking over that responsibility, and they would send you the form to be able to make that what they call change of ALR. That's a form that's available on our website under the form section as well. So they could help you process that, and someone could take over.
Okay. I believe you mentioned before, but if you could restate the tax deduction for parents filing jointly.
Yes. So it's $2,500 per person per ABLE account. If someone is married and filing joint returns, they could claim up to $5,000 as an income deduction for contributions made to the ABLE account.
Okay. Maybe out of your wheelhouse, but I'm going to ask you anyway. If funds are transferred from ABLE to an irrevocable trust, are those funds taxable?
So was the question if ABLE funds are transferred to a special needs trust? Is that what?
To an irrevocable trust,
Okay.
Are those funds taxable?
So we cannot do, we cannot fund, or a person with an ABLE account cannot fund the trust. However, it does work in reverse, where a trust can fund the ABLE account. So we don't have the ability to do it the reverse way.
Okay. And question regarding, will this presentation be available? Yes, I will be sending the video out, as well as the slides again. If you need the slides, they're available in the section marked handouts on your panel, but I will be mentioning some resources and the video that will be available. Maybe one more, Kelly?
Yep, sure.
Okay, is SSI and SSDI paused if the account goes over $100,000?
Only SSI is paused because that's the only one that has an asset limit. And they say you can have 2,000 outside in a regular bank accounts and $100,000 in an ABLE. So if you went over the 100,000, only those with SSI would have their monthly cash benefit paused. However, Medicaid and all waivers remain in place indefinitely.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure, absolutely. Well, those were great questions, guys. Keep them coming. I always like to hear from you guys. Want to make sure you get all your questions answered today. We'll stick around at the end for any additional ones. But in the meantime, let's take a look at some of the savings and investment options. I'm not going to go terribly into the weeds on this. I just want you all to know that with an ABLE account, you have options. You have options of how you either want to save the money or invest it. So one of the options we have, one of our most popular options we have with ABLE is our cash option. This is an FDIC insured interest-bearing account, a product, very similar to like your money market, right? So it is going to be dependent upon the federal interest rate and some factors like that, but it is insured. People like this because they say, hey, you know, especially self-advocates that are opening their ABLE account, they're like, look, I want to put money in here, I'm working, I want to put money away for my future. I want to know that if I'm not touching my money, it's going to be there when I need it 20 years from now. I don't want to worry about, you know, losses for the market and the stock market. I just like that cash option. It's very popular. Right now, it's receiving almost 6% interest. So it's doing really, really well, and people are very happy with that at this point. This is a type of option that people who use their funds in their ABLE account frequently, they like this option too, because they may put money in every month, but they also access the funds. So for them, it doesn't make a lot of sense to put money in one of the investment portfolios if they're going to be withdrawing the money in a couple weeks to use it for their expenses. So very popular for that. We also have 4 investment options. These are all portfolios managed by Vanguard. The first one is a conservative option where we have 80% is in bonds and 20% is going to be in the market. The moderate version, the moderate option is a 50-50 split between stocks and bonds. Aggressive, well, where we will have a portfolio made up of 84% in stocks and 16% in bonds. And our fixed income option is 100% bonds. So as you can see, we have different options based on people's risk tolerances, their investment strategy. Are they in there for the long haul? Are they, you know, lots of different choices. Good news is an ABLE account holder in the ALR, they don't have to make that decision of what they're going to do ahead of time, because there's options to have multiple choices on where you direct your money. As a matter of fact, each and every time someone makes the contribution to their ABLE account, it's going to ask you, how much are you contributing? Then it's going to say, where do you want to direct this contribution? So you could direct it to cash, you could direct it to conservative or any of the investment options, or multiple ones at that time. So oftentimes we see people that have a mixture of the cash option or 1 or 2 or more of the investment options as well. You know, takes the pressure off of having to commit to just one specific one. Also, let's just say someone did have the cash option and they've also decided to invest in moderate, and they said, you know what, based on what the market's doing, I think I'm going to move my money that was in moderate portfolio over to aggressive. They're able to do that if they want to. It's not a problem. They can just make that change online. A person can change their investment strategy for no fees up to 2 times per calendar year. right? Okay, so that's a little bit about the savings and investments. To find out the exact makeup of all those portfolios, you want to check our program disclosure book. It'll have all the investments listed, what funds they are invested in, and all the good news about that. Just stuff that we don't have time to go into in a 1-hour presentation, but that is available. Alrighty, next let's take a look at who can contribute to an ABLE account. As I mentioned earlier, anybody at all can contribute to an ABLE account. The owner of the account, family members or friends, employers can make contributions to an ABLE account. I was at a presentation on Monday and was talking to a family whose daughter was employed, and the company decided to make contributions to 403B for this employee. Had they made the contributions to an ABLE account, it would be better because it wouldn't impact her benefits. But when they made those contributions to a 403B, that was a countable asset. She's receiving SSI benefits, so it could really become problematic once that balance in the 403B reaches over $2,000. So employers can contribute to ABLE programs as well. Back payments from benefits. We see this often where people apply for SSI and sometimes it takes 9 months, a year, sometimes 2 years. We see things taking a long time to process, and you get back payments starting from the time that you applied for Social Security. So these amounts can be kind of large, right? They can be $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, sometimes more, depending upon the benefits they're receiving. So right away, you have a situation beyond that $2,000 resource limit. They give you, I believe, a certain amount of time to spend down some of those back payments. But if you put the money in the ABLE account, you don't have to worry about it. You can access the funds whenever you need it. It's very helpful for back payments. We've talked about the rollovers from 529 college savings plans, but also small inheritances. So great Aunt Elizabeth passes away and leaves $5,000 of her life insurance policy to your family member, maybe unbeknownst to you, which happens frequently. People call me all the time and say, "Oh my goodness, I didn't realize this, but somebody, gave this, made my my son or daughter the recipient of this life insurance policy, and it's going to impact their benefits. So what do I do?" We put in an ABLE account if it's under that $18,000 limit, right? So small inheritances and small settlements. Heaven forbid somebody get into an accident, have an insurance settlement. That can go into an ABLE account as well, as long as it's under 18. But remember, guys, for those large inheritances and for larger settlements, that's where we're going to need that special needs trust, because it's the only way. There's only 2 ways for a person with a disability on public benefits to be able to have those resources over $2,000: special needs trust and ABLE accounts. Let's take a look at the ways that we can use money in the ABLE account. So what the regulations were to say, if you were to get insomnia and look at the section 529A Internal Revenue Code, you would read that they would say that this is anything that's going to support the account beneficiary in his or her health, independence, or quality of life. This is a very broad definition, and they intended it to be broad because each person is unique and has different needs. What they did, however, do is provide just some categories, just topic areas to kind of get us all thinking about what a QDE could be. And that's what you're looking at here on this slide. It's just some categories, not intended to be an all-inclusive list, but let's look at some of them. So health, prevention, and wellness. Most people are like, yeah, I get it. That's my doctor copays, prescriptions, hospitalizations, got that. But let's think about that prevention and wellness piece. That could be things like a gym membership, yoga classes, therapeutic horseback riding, because it is promoting the wellness of a person with a disability in all of those ways. So we got to kind of think broad, right? This next topic area category is housing. This is something that is different from a special needs trust. There are some specific rules when money is held within a trust about paying rent or mortgage, and the folks at Elville can really talk more about that. But with an ABLE account, you can utilize funds to pay rent, and this is something that why we see people with a special needs trust frequently will fund the ABLE account annually with an amount of money from the trust that enables them then to pay rent. That's a very helpful way to be able to have that person pay rent out of their ABLE account funds. Education, this could be for any type of education, certainly college, but it could be for tutoring when someone's in school. It can be any type of education classes whatsoever. It could be sewing classes. It could be pottery classes. It doesn't matter, anything that is promoting the education and learning of a person with disabilities. So it just, lots of possibilities there. Transportation can be Ubers and planes, trains, buses, whatever. It can also be for an adapted vehicle for families that have someone that has physical accessibility needs for transportation. Those adaptations can be made to a vehicle, or they can purchase a van that has those types of things. They can also purchase a vehicle for themselves if they're able to drive, which is fantastic, because not only does it mean they can purchase the vehicle with their ABLE funds, but they can maintain it. Gasoline, oil changes, tire changes, any repairs to the car, because again, that's tied to their ability to be living and working independently in the community, which is part of the criteria, right? Promoting independence and quality of life. Basic living expenses, that's just things like food, clothing, utility bills. Assistive technology could be the cell phone or the monthly cell phone fee. It could also be a computer, laptops, screen readers, anything like that. And you see here legal fees or professional services. So if you need to create a special needs trust, a first party trust for the account owner, you can utilize funds from the ABLE account for that. If you need somebody to do taxes for you, there you go. There's professional fees for that as well. It goes all the way down to funeral and burial expenses. So in the event that the account holder passes, money can be accessed for all those final burial expenses. Okay. Let's take a check-in here, Jeff. I know we usually get lots of questions about QDEs.
Thanks, Kelly. Yeah, let's take a look here. First question, is there any discussion about raising the limit over $100,000? I'm just thinking about those who are disabled and their housing needs. If a disabled person wants to buy a house, they may need more than $100,000 to buy a house, given the high cost of housing in Maryland. Your thoughts about this limit and the need to increase it?
Yes, that is one of the things on the radar for ABLE programs nationwide. We're very actively through the ASPN, which is the ABLE Savings Plan network of all ABLE programs, very active on the legislative front, advocating for changes like this. We have to prioritize, our efforts. The first thing was getting that age adjustment in, to 46, because it excluded millions of Americans across the country, including veterans. So we took us 5 years to do that, but finally that passed, and we're working on that sunset for rollovers. But definitely one of the things that we'd like to see is not have that $100,000 limit. I can't make any promises, but it is one of the things that's on our radar that we are continuing to advocate for.
Okay, and a question I think we get each presentation. If an ABLE account beneficiary has a representative payee for their SSI payments, can another person be the representative payee for their ABLE account?
Yes, they can, because Social Security and ABLE are totally separate. So the person that's the ALR for the ABLE account can be whoever is appointed to do so. They don't have to be the rep payee that's on the SSA account.
Okay. Can there be multiple ALRs possible if siblings take over to provide a system of checks and balances?
No, not at this time. Only one ALR.
Okay. What is the difference between 529 and 529A?
529 is the place in the IRS regulations that provides all the regulations and guidelines for college savings plans, and 529A is the regulations for ABLE accounts specifically.
Okay. And is there a place where you can access the list of the qualified disability expenses that you're alluding to here, Kelly?
So yes, that would be available on our website. Again, it's just going to be categories. There is no specific list. I know a lot of times people say, oh, I love this definition. It gives me so many ideas. And other people say, Kelly, oh, I hate this. Can you just provide me like 7,042 things I can use my ABLE account for? But this is the way the regulations were written, very broad. And here's what I say about it, guys. Every single time you make a withdrawal, if you're managing the ABLE account, you want to ask yourself, does this withdrawal of funds, does it support the ABLE beneficiary in his or her health, in their independence in their lives, or in their overall quality of life? Chances are it's going to meet one of those criteria. I will tell you this, there's only two things that I have heard a hard no from the IRS about, and that is gambling. They're not going to have, they're not going to permit people to withdraw funds for gambling, and they're not going to allow ABLE funds to be spent on purchasing gifts for other people, because this is a special tax advantage savings account intended only for the person with a disability, and the funds should be used only for the person with a disability. So those are the two things that I have heard a hard no. Other than that, it's really up to who's ever managing that ABLE account to make that determination. We do suggest that you keep your documentation, right? So that in the event you are ever audited by the IRS, and not audited because you have an ABLE account, but because you just got lucky, got pulled for an IRS audit, the IRS is going to see that, hey, this person has an ABLE account. They're going to want to know two things. This ties us all the way back to that very first slide. They're going to want to know two things. Number one, does this person qualify to have this tax advantage savings account for a person with a disability? Well, if they're receiving SSI or SSDI, or you can produce that physician's disability certification form, that's going to take care of that first criteria for them. And the second thing they're going to want to know is, how is this money being spent? Is it being spent on the person with a disability, the beneficiary on that account? That's why I just say, just keep a copy of your supporting documents. You know, for my daughter, I paid for her braces, and I have the receipts. Every time I made a payment, I just toss those receipts into the ABLE 2024 file, along with any other receipts for things that I paid out for her expenses. And if I ever did get audited, or she did get audited, I would just hand them that file folder for all of my expenses. And that's how we handle that.
Okay, makes good sense, Kelly. Let's do a couple more, please.
Sure.
Also just read about Medicaid payback when funds after death of a beneficiary. Does the remaining money in an ABLE account not go to the surviving siblings if parents are deceased?
Okay, so that is a double question. That's a double question. And it's a complex question, but it is a very important question, one that we get every time. So here's what's going to happen. Upon the passing of an ABLE account holder, the funds in the ABLE account will remain available to be used for final burial expenses or any outstanding expenses. And then what would happen is, I believe the account remains open for 6 months. And at that point, it can be closed and liquidated, and the funds will go to whoever has been determined to be the recipient of that person's estate. So again, this isn't really an ABLE thing, but whoever is going to be the recipient of that person's estate. So if you have a will, you know, for that person, then that'll follow whatever is written in that will. If not, it'll go through probate. And again, this is something that the folks at Elville can talk you through a lot more about, somebody passing that doesn't have a will. But probate basically kind of goes like this. They'll look at the people in a certain hierarchy who'd be eligible to receive that. I believe it starts with a spouse. If there's no surviving spouse, is there a surviving child? If not a child, is there a surviving parent? If not a surviving parent, it's a surviving sibling, and it kind of works its way down like that. Now, here's the important thing to know: when the ABLE account is closed and the ABLE funds are liquidated and sent to whoever that is going to be, that person would be eligible to receive the funds, but they would have to pay taxes on the earnings of those funds, right? So the whole time ABLE funds were in the ABLE account for the person with a disability, it's tax-free, but that's only eligible to the person with a disability. So when you receive those liquidated ABLE funds, you'll have to pay taxes on the earnings. And I believe, check our program disclosure book about that, but it'll talk more about like the taxes on that, but that's how that would happen. So yes, they could have it. Now, also, you asked in the question about Medicaid recapture. So here's how that goes. With an ABLE account, the state of Maryland has signed a letter saying that Maryland Medicaid will not seek recapture from funds in an ABLE account. This is great, wonderful news. We're one of the states that have this provision. However, the federal government reserves the right to seek recapture of ABLE funds for, and this is true for all of us. This isn't even an ABLE thing, but anyone that's joining us today, in the event that we would require long-term care through Medicare, right? 55 and older long-term care. We would have to divest ourselves of all of our assets before Medicare would cover all those expenses. So what they say is, for an ABLE account holder who passes away, who was a recipient of that long-term care, the federal government could recapture Medicaid funds for that portion. And I know that's a very complicated question. So hopefully I provided an answer for that. One other thing I'd like to say is that if you have an ABLE account, if you have a family member with an ABLE account and they have a sibling or a step sibling who also has an ABLE account, you can set up a successor beneficiary for that. So if the ABLE account owner passes, you could roll those funds into the other ABLE account owner's ABLE account. That happens automatically. That is the only type of successor beneficiary that we can set up. We can't designate the recipient of the ABLE funds if it's not going to another person who's eligible for ABLE.
Okay. Great answer. Thank you so much. Let's do one more.
Yeah.
Our son is a minor, and we do not qualify for SSI because we have too much in assets. If we put all of our savings, et cetera, into an ABLE account, can that help our qualification?
So it would have to be, you could contribute money, but again, to the ABLE account at $18,000 a year, it's probably not so much that your assets are precluding your child to receive SSI. It's probably your household income. So that brings up a really important point. There's two different ways that you can jeopardize either the monthly amount that they receive or jeopardize the benefits in general. There's the Social Security Administration is going to look at assets, which is for a person with disabilities over 2,000. Then there's income. So ABLE can help with that asset piece. But if you are earning more money than the threshold is permitted by Social Security, that is also going to impact your amount of benefits that you're going to receive. So that has nothing to do with ABLE, because that's looking at somebody's earnings, their income. And Social Security has an earnings threshold for a person with a disability, as well as for that household income. Chances are you may be exceeding the threshold for the family household. And that could be why, a lot of times that is the reason why. And I don't know your specifics, but oftentimes we see that the family income is exceeding that threshold and they're not eligible.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. Thank you very much.
Sure, absolutely. Jeff, I'm disappointed nobody asked the big question about QDEs, the most popular of all times. That was.
I think I know what you're alluding to. I was going to ask it for the attendees though.
Okay, well, no, I'm gonna flip the script and I'm gonna ask you, and you're gonna answer it. I'm gonna put you on the spot. So the number one question we get is, can my family member, or can a person that has an ABLE account use their funds for a vacation? So let me ask you, Jeff, based on the criteria of a qualified disability expense being supporting a person in their health, independence, or quality of life, can that person use their ABLE funds for a vacation?
Based on my knowledge of ABLE accounts and everything I've learned from you over the years, the unequivocal answer is a resounding yes.
Yes, absolutely. Winner, winner. Yeah,
right.
You got it. And that's because if you think about it, it pretty much hits all those, right? Does it support a person's health? I think so. Physical, mental, emotional health that you get from having a vacation? Absolutely. Independence, there's probably a lot of opportunities on a vacation to exercise some independence in the community, and overall quality of life. So yes, absolutely. And what I would say, just to answer that question, when families ask it, I'll give you a specific example. My daughter's dream was to go to Disney. That's all she wanted and talked about for forever and ever. So she decided to start asking her family and friends just make contributions to her ABLE account instead of giving her another, Barbie or, whatever she was into that year, and she wanted to save up. She was able to use her ABLE funds to pay for her portion of the trip, not the whole family's, right? We all went to Disney, mom, dad, and Lily, but we could only use funds for Lily from Lily's ABLE account to pay for her park tickets, her airfare, portions of those expenses that were for her vacation. Okay, so that's how we handle that.
So Kelly, I will say that there is a question we haven't gotten to yet. I just scrolled to that, just reference what you said. A very wonderful client of ours just says, can family or friends of the ABLE beneficiary use ABLE funds for travel expenses to visit the beneficiary? So it's a ancillary piece of that question, but not the exact question.
It's not so in other words, family that want to visit the person, the ABLE account holder. Is that, am I understanding that correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so this is going to be, bottom line is, if you're managing the ABLE account, you need to be able to justify that in the event of an IRS audit. I can see where someone might say, well, this does ultimately benefit the quality of life of the account holder by bringing their family and friends to them. However, the IRS person might say, yeah, but you should not be using ABLE funds to bring them here. So I couldn't answer that question because I wouldn't know how, it would have to be up to that individual ALR who's managing the account to be able to justify that. And the IRS may or may not permit that depending upon their review. So let's look at what would happen if they said no. This is a good place to look at what would happen. So the money that was used to bring the family members to the individual, that amount was declined as a QDE from the IRS. What you would have to do is pay taxes on the earnings portion of those expenses and a 10% tax penalty. So that's what happens if you use funds that are for expenses that are non-QDEs. The IRS would say, well, this is how much money we calculated that they earned on that, and this is the taxes on it and the 10% tax penalty. I hope that helps.
Okay, thank you. Let's keep moving on.
All right. And Jeff, for some reason, I can't see the clock on my computer anymore. So can you give me a little time check here, how we're doing?
We're at 11:19.
All right, we're gonna start wrapping things up here. But we did answer a lot of questions along the way. So let's look at how we access the money in our ABLE account. It's important to know that ABLE accounts are set up or intended to be managed online. These are online bank accounts. So we're not going to be looking for the Bank of ABLE, the Bank of Maryland ABLE, We're not going to go to our local bank at PNC, M&T, or whatever and say, hey, let's open an ABLE account. Instead, people go online to marylandable.org, and that's where they open their ABLE account. And in that enrollment process, they are going to link the ABLE account to an existing bank account of their choice. So that's where you can link your regular checking or savings from M&T or PNC or, any federal credit union or anything like that. You link it, and that is how funds, it's the primary method for people to be able to transfer funds electronically into the ABLE account. And that's how they are able to withdraw funds, by taking an electronic withdrawal back to that linked bank account. That is the primary method. If you have a situation where a family member is unbanked and they don't have a linked bank account, we could work things around that with paper checks. There is an additional fee for that. But if anyone has that specific need, reach out to us and we'll work through that. The other option is through our prepaid card. That is another way to access funds in the ABLE account. I do want to bring this up. It's not, the ABLE prepaid card doesn't automatically come with the ABLE account. It's something that people can choose to order at any point when they enroll, or 6 months down the line, whenever they want it. But it is a very convenient way to access the ABLE funds conveniently. For folks that are using ABLE accounts as just long-term investments or savings, and they really don't plan on accessing funds, they're not really interested in the prepaid card. But someone like for myself, for example, who frequently uses ABLE funds for our daughter's expenses, I love the prepaid card because I load money from the ABLE account onto this prepaid card, and I use it in the community. I use it online to pay for anything that she needs. I also love this as a financial literacy tool for our daughter. As I mentioned, she's 20 years old now. She does have an intellectual disability, so finances, they're very abstract. It's hard to sort of teach this. So what a wonderful tool this has been, giving her this prepaid card where she's able to see the balance on her card, so she knows how much money she has available to her to spend. But I've also linked this prepaid card to monthly expenses like her cell phone bill, which was a wonderful and eye-opening experience to her to understand that we have monthly living expenses, and the cell phone is one of them. So she sees that her funds come off of her prepaid card for that. And so it's just a really helpful tool. This is an additional option, so there's an extra fee for this. It's $1.25 a month. If you order the card, the fee is assessed whether you use the card one time, 50 times, or not at all. So it's a total of $15 a year for those who are interested. It's just an option. I just wanted to share that with you, but it is kind of cool because you can upload receipts from your purchases. It has a spending report of where the merchants that you've spent with. It's a very helpful tool just for an ALR as well. Also, you control how much money is on the card. So in my daughter's situation, for example, she's still learning about things. I don't want to give her access to all the funds in her ABLE account, but loading money onto this prepaid card is a great way to start teaching her about saving some, spending some. So lots of good features there. While I'm talking about special features here of our ABLE account, I do want to share with you that we have a gifting page that comes with every ABLE account holder account. And it is a wonderful way to have family and friends support a goal that your family member has. I mentioned to you about the trip to Disney. When my daughter decided she wanted that more than anything, family and friends were able to receive a link to her gifting page around her birthday, around holidays, graduation. We sent a link out, and it's such an easy way for people to make contributions. It's sent by either text, messenger, or email, and it provides a link that they click on, gives them an opportunity to, support her or give a gift, identify the amount and how they want to, contribute it. Hit send. It goes directly into the ABLE account. It's a wonderful tool. Out of our over 6,000 Maryland ABLE account holders, over the last 6 years, we have 582 of them who have activated their gifting page and frequently use it. And I love this because over the last 6 years together, they have received over $4.8 million in gifts. So if you have an ABLE account and you're not using this gifting page, start using it. It's a great way to support somebody in their goals. You know, if someone has they're moving out into an apartment that they're sharing with somebody, they're trying to set up, their needs, their furniture or whatever they need, sending a link to family and friends. Hey, this is happening. If you want to help contribute to this, people love to be able to support people in their goals like that. So consider using your gifting page. Another thing we have here that's maybe new to you, we just added it last year, was the ability for direct deposit of SSA funds into ABLE. So if you're interested in that, that is something that we were able to add last year. And also direct payroll contributions from the ALR's employer or also the account owner's employer into ABLE. So those are some features we have here. One thing I want to bring up again is this Maryland ABLE tax incentive. This has been a really helpful tool for my family. At first when I considered having an ABLE account, I thought, oh my gosh, like we really don't have a lot of extra money to be putting aside for savings for our daughter. She had such an incredible medical journey, and the hospital bills, the medical bills, it was really devastating. So there wasn't a lot of extra funds to save during that time. But then I got to thinking about this and I thought, well, she's our daughter. We're providing everything for her. We are taking care of all of her needs. We're spending money on her braces, her summer camps, her clothes, whatever. We're paying for it because we're her parents. Why not take the money and put the contributions into the ABLE account? I can turn around and use the ABLE account to pay for all those things. I use her prepaid card to do that. But now Dad and I are able to claim an income deduction on our Maryland state taxes for things we were going to be doing anyway. So just something to think about there. Do want to mention that with an ABLE account, there is an annual fee of $35 for the ABLE account. It is prorated, so those who opened the account yesterday are not going to pay quite that much this year because they didn't have it January and February. It is also assessed quarterly at $8.75. Also, we talked about the extra $1.25 if you order a prepaid card. And there's also an asset-based fee for the investment options. And again, check the program disclosure book about that because it's just kind of depending upon which investment portfolio that you choose. But it's a standard, asset-based fee that is normally associated with the person managing those funds. So check that out. I want to just kind of get through the rest of this so that we can take time for any additional questions. If you are interested in opening an ABLE account with Maryland, we recommend that you actually type in our whole ALR, www.marylandable.org. The reason I say this is if you want a Maryland ABLE account, we've heard over the years from people who were Googling Maryland ABLE, and what was popping up was ABLE Now in Maryland. People were clicking on that link, they opened up an ABLE account, and then months later, they found out that they were not with Maryland ABLE, they were with ABLE Now, which is a Virginia-based program, which is a fine program, as well as all the other state programs are great programs too. But if you're interested in taking advantage of the features that we have in Maryland, like the income deduction, that's not available to you if you're making contributions to Virginia State's program, okay? When you go to our website, take a look at our program disclosure book for all the, details that we couldn't get into during this presentation. There's a frequently asked questions section that I think is real helpful. All the forms that I talked about are going to be on that website as well under resources. And when you do decide to open, or if you do decide to open an ABLE account, you want to have some information available to you when you sit down to do it, make the process smoother. We want to have the Social Security number for both the account holder and the ALR, and also think about which bank account do I want to link to the ABLE account. It could be the ALR's account, it could be the account owner's account, savings or checking, it could be, you have choices. Just think about that ahead of time because you'll want to have your bank routing number available for that, as well as the account number itself. So when you log into Maryland ABLE, you'll see the enrollment open an account now screen. That's where it'll all begin. It'll take you through a series of questions. One thing I do want to caution you about is as you're moving through enrollment, one of the first questions is going to say, are you opening this ABLE account for yourself, or are you opening it on behalf of another person? If you're in ALR, please click that I'm opening it on behalf of another person, because if you click the first option, it's not going to provide an opportunity for you to have your contact information, and you're the one managing the ABLE account, right? So make sure you click that option. Once the account is open, an ABLE account ALR or owner has access to their account and their funds 24/7. You log in, you want to make a contribution, do it whenever you want, set up monthly contributions, discontinue monthly contributions, change the amount of your contributions. You can take withdrawals whenever you need them. Same thing, log in, hit transfer, quick withdrawal in the amount that you want, and boom, it goes back to that linked bank account for you to use. So you have access to your funds. Change your investment strategies if you want. Every time you make a contribution, you pick where you want to make those contributions to. So total account management available for the ALR or account holder. These numbers here that we see are just a recap of things that we talked about. I'm going to leave this up as my final slide, but before I do that, I just want to thank you everybody so much for taking this time to learn about ABLE accounts and how they may benefit your family member or yourself, or for you advisors that are on the call, how it'll benefit your clients. I want to invite you to stay connected with us by going onto our website and signing up for our quarterly newsletter. I do mean quarterly. I am not going to send you emails every day about ABLE, but if you're interested in receiving updates about the program, please consider joining our newsletter quarterly mailing list. That's our customer support there. So if you have an ABLE account and you need help with any of the things that I talked about, setting up that online gifting page, or how do I order my prepaid card, call that number. They can help you. We invite you to follow us on Facebook. Try to keep our page very interactive with resources about other benefits and information about other benefits, any webinars going on. So consider following us there. Also on our website is an events page, an events calendar at the very bottom of our website. That is where you'll see where we're going to be next. We are at resource fairs across the state, all over the great state of Maryland. We invite you to come and see us at the resource fair. Bring your questions for us. Let's stay connected. So just ways to stay connected. But Jeff, I'm going to put this back to this recap slide here. Take a look at some extra questions and stick around as long as you need me.
Kelly, thank you so very much. So much great information. And don't tell anybody, but you're my favorite presenter.
Oh, thank you.
So, wow, just a wonderful resource and so much good information to share with our attendees. And so we do have a few more questions here. And for those that want to hang in there with us for a few more minutes, you'll get some additional information here. So let's jump right in here. So do gifts count? Do gifts count against the annual contribution limit?
Yes.
Okay. Let's go here. We've covered that. Probably out of your zone here, Kelly. Is a special needs trust immune on this medical recapture, maybe Medicaid?
You want to check with your attorney, but they are subject to Medicaid recapture. That, to my knowledge, they are subject to Medicaid recapture.
And what is the Social Security threshold for a family of 4? Do you know that off the top of your head?
That I don't. Since I don't work for Social Security, I don't know. Their things change from year to year, and I don't recall what that is.
Okay. Do you have to open ABLE in Maryland to receive the tax benefits as opposed to opening in another state ABLE program?
For the income deduction on your Maryland state taxes, yes, you'd have to contribute to a Maryland ABLE account. But we always say we'd love for you to be with Maryland because we think we have a great program here. But we most importantly want you to be with whatever ABLE program best suits your needs, right? So you have 47 choice, well, not really 47, there's 47 programs. Not every state is open to national enrollment, but many of them are. And so let's just say you're a very financially savvy investor. The state of Tennessee, I think, has 13 investment options. That may be what you're all about. Definitely check them out, right? We've got 4 investment options in cash. So if that income deduction on your taxes is important to you, then you'll need to be with Maryland if you live in Maryland.
And one more for now. Any final questions? Go ahead and get those into us right now, please. And along those same lines, what happens if Maryland Able holder moves on to another state?
Excellent question. They have two options. They could take their Maryland Able account with them because it's linked to your existing bank account and it's online access, so you can have it whether you're living in Maryland or California. But we do often say, hey guys, if you're relocating to another state, check out that state's plan, because once you move out of Maryland, you're not going to be filing Maryland income taxes. You'll be filing income taxes in that state. So check out their income tax options. And if they have a benefit there, it makes sense to roll it over. If they don't have an income deduction there in their state, then it's fine to just leave it with Maryland. It's no problem.
Okay, let's see, another couple more here. Can you put the rent money collected from your adult child each month into the ABLE accounts?
Well, once you collect that rent money, it's up to you to determine whatever you want to do with it. You're paying, you decide what you want to do with it, and contributing it to an ABLE account is definitely an option. You can do that.
Okay, and can you put your contact information up there one more time, Kelly? Getting some requests for that.
Actually, Jeff, I believe that the let me see if I can, I can still advance the slide. There it is.
There we go.
So that's our customer support number and our website. But if you need to reach me and you want to reach out to me directly, I don't know if I can put it in the chat, or Jeff, if you can type it. It's a doozy of an email address now. It's a long one.
I will send
Jeff
out.
can connect you with me.
You're getting to my part here. I think we have one more question, but I will send out a follow-up message to everyone with today's video, lots of different resources for you, along with the slides again, and Kelly's contact information with her permission. So for those that attend our presentations frequently, you know what you're going to be getting from me, which is hopefully helpful to you. And for those that are new, you'll get some good information from me no later than bright and early tomorrow morning, hopefully today. I will get to it very quickly and along with Kelly's information. And let's see here, will the rollover from a regular 529 to ABLE be charged? Is there a hefty fee?
A rollover fee? No, there's no rollover fee.
Okay.
And that's initiated by you with your existing 529 plan. So you initiate that with your plan, your current plan that you're with.
Okay. And last one for now, can I have my son's SSDI directly deposited? Can I direct deposit SSDI into an ABLE account?
Yes, that was a feature that was added last year. So we're happy to make that available for families who wish to do that. And you can connect with customer support about how to set that up.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for being part of our presentation today. We've got a lot of other presentations coming up as part of our webinar series. We've got Estate Planning Essentials next week. We have our Wellness series coming back, which is always popular. We have our Trustee Selection quarterly presentation coming up in a couple of weeks, and we have our Special Needs Planning presentation, what families need to know about planning for a loved one with special needs, in a few weeks. I'll send out a link to all those in my follow-up, and come visit us at the Brain Injury Association of Maryland conference. If you're going to be there, Kelly and I will be exhibiting, and Kelly and Steve Elville will also be presenting. So hope to see you there. It's always a great event. So thanks for being part of our presentation today. Kelly, thank you. Thanks for everybody for participating, and we'll see you again on the Elville webinar series, and have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.
All right.